Welcome, everybody, to another amazing episode of Educational Analysis. And I'm your host, Professor DeNobile. And tonight is episode 10, Written Products, Portfolios, and Projects. I hope I'm able to run through this fairly quickly. I got pizza coming. It's a pizza night. Oh, yeah. All right. So anyway, here we go. Written products, portfolios, and projects. Our agenda, we're going to be looking at logs, journals, and notebooks, projects, portfolios. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So first, for written products, logs, journals, and notebooks. Similar, slightly different. So logs are documentary evidence of events or progression, concise summaries of information, of questions answered. Think reading or scientific logs. I remember when I was doing science research in high school, we had to have our logs. We had to have our science logs, and we had to have the special paper that was in between so that it made multiple copies of our notes. So that's what logs are. Journals are a record of the progression of events. It incorporates student thoughts, observations, questions, potential dialogues, uncovers prior knowledge, misconceptions, student takeaways. Student journals are typically like reflective. They're reflective areas where they'll do a series of activities in them that demonstrate out of the box thinking. That's pretty much what your journals are, as opposed to your notebooks, which are your traditional collection of all information on a topic, tracks student performance over time, identifies misconceptions. Students do self-assessment in them. They take their notes in it. It's a collection of all information within a course. Projects are a compendium of complex assignments toward a common goal. They're aligned with standards, and they're developmentally appropriate and scored with a rubric or a series of rubrics if there are multiple tasks within them. Student responsibility is in planning, organizing, choosing roles, meeting deadlines, and reflecting. Avoid the pitfalls. I believe this is discussed in the chapter for this week. These are your bad projects. Your first are your razzle dazzle projects, big flash, no substance. These tend to happen. I've seen many of these over the years, especially teaching middle school, where kids for the first time, they really like, oh my god, we're making a presentation, and they have no clue what's going on. Absolutely no clue. They look really cool, they look amazing, but there's nothing really in them. Sometimes I'll see this in high school where they'll make a presentation and then they'll stand up in front of the room for a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you're like, oh, they had no clue what the assignment was about. That's a razzle dazzle assignment. It often means that the directions were probably the most times when a student does not perform well, it's usually because the teacher did something wrong. Does that mean that every single time in it? No, but reality is that you have to be clear and concise in your directions. Other times you got your parasites, your parents doing the assignments for them. The parents choose the topic, and sometimes they actually do the assignment for them. That's another pitfall. And it depends on how difficult you make the assignment, but sometimes parents just do them anyway. The amount of scaffolding needed in order to help complete the assignment. Do the students have background knowledge? Do the students have what they need? The fizzle is the guidance necessary to do an assignment. Teaching college English for the last few years, but also teaching at the local community college near me. I've noticed with high school students as well as with military like vets, military vets who take my course in the community college. Um, when the directions are find a topic, write a paper, they fall apart. And I've learned over the years that I need to not only do I need to break down each individual task within the assignment, I also have to provide sufficient directions for each individual assignment. Because just like going back to the razzle dazzle, sometimes what happens is that poor directions means the assignment's not going to be done correctly. Celebration is when it's not really an assessment. I've seen this a lot where, you know, oh, everybody, we're doing a project, everybody gets an A. Those don't have those don't do anything. The uneven playing field where resources for different students depends on who is successful on the assignment. When I first started working at my current school, um, it was a learning curve because I was working in a school um, that was 95% of the students were students who lived in poverty. They lived below the poverty line. So, and this was also when I started working at my current school before we had the resources to give every student a Chromebook, which became a necessity because of the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we gave every student a Chromebook to make sure that there was a even playing field during the pandemic. But understanding that when you're assigning a project, every student has to be able to have equal access to all resources, or by the very least, if there are many tasks within the greater project, that even if there are unequal access to resources, that you, by the very least, have an understanding that individual parts can be done by every single child, depending on how they divvy up the parts of the project. And then there's the near death project. And I've had these over the years where they're too big for one person, namely you, to manage them. Do not have an inflated ego when you start teaching, thinking, "Oh my god, I'm going to change the world with this project." No. Simple is better. Simple but deeper. Don't force the students and therefore yourself to do projects that are just too big to handle. Overall, be purposeful, be prepared, be ready, be supportive, be student-centered, be quality-oriented. It's not about quantity. It's not about how big the project is. It's about how quality, how much the students, how the richness of the experience of doing that particular project is going to be. Brings us to portfolios. So there are many types of portfolios. There's the showcase portfolio. I like the glitter portfolio. It's the best work chosen by the child. I've done this most often in my career. When I think of a portfolio, I think of the showcase portfolio, where the child picks their best work and they reflect on it, and boom, you got a portfolio. The growth working portfolio is the type of portfolio that my current school we're working on this year, and that's a collection of student work for future evaluation. It has progress notes in it. It helps inform our planning in the future, and so that's the growth working portfolio. The skill portfolio is kind of like a resume of skills and performances. When I was getting my MFA, my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, we had to create a skill portfolio at the end of every course. So at the end of every course, we had to create a portfolio of work to show We know how to write different types of poems. We know how to write short stories, flash fiction, novels, creative nonfiction, um, anything that you could think of in different types of writing. At the end of each course, I had a show as a resume of skills. Like, this is what I learned in this course on how to write it. You can also think of it like in shop in like a shop course where the teacher teaches you, here's how you make a ashtray. I don't know if they still make ashtrays, because I don't think that's politically correct anymore to make ashtrays. I made a really good ashtray when I was in middle school, for one of the little clay pot ashtray. But my point is that you're going through shop class, you're learning how to make these different things. A birdhouse. You take pictures, and this is I've proven myself that I can build these different things. There's the evaluative portfolio, which is also called the assessment proficiency promotion portfolio. It has all the formative and summative evaluations for planning and instruction uh, in the course. And then there's the archival or pass along portfolio. Typically see this in elementary school, where it's a collection of everything, and then that portfolio moves with the student from year to year to year to year to inform the following year's teacher of where the student was, and so that the current teacher can show where they're going to go to. And then when the student graduates from elementary school, they have a complete portfolio of everything that they've done in their archival portfolio. So the e-portfolio, this is what's really important to consider, especially in the 21st century. One, besides the practicality of saving trees, just that alone, the e-portfolio is really great um, in really putting together quick, efficiently, and if you have really good software, um, really modernizing the concept of the portfolio. I love e-portfolios. They're adaptive to any type of school. Um, I've created e-portfolios in Google Docs. And if you're using Google Classroom, well, it's really easy to go from Google Classroom to a Google Docs e-portfolio. Um, I when I was in high school, I had to do it in those huge laser discs. I don't know if any of you remember the laser discs, but I had to do an e-portfolio on a laser disc. They're just really interesting, really fun to do, and they allow you to do what paper portfolios don't, which is like animate. You can create animation for your portfolio, and it's just exciting. And I think for kids, it's a really nice way of bringing technology into the classroom. Key characteristics of portfolios: determine your purpose, the organization, meaning having a table of contents, dividers, dates on pages. Again, this is for paper portfolios, but there's a way of creating a table of contents for an e-portfolio as well. Determine the collection method. What's the process going to be each time you're collecting work for the portfolio? How are they going to be stored? What's the storage method? Determine how they're going to be evaluated and judged, and then determine how the contents will be shared with parents, with administration, with other teachers. Um, Components of the portfolio include systematic observations, work samples, checklists, memorabilia, anecdotal records, rating scales, interviews, photos, you name it, you could put it in the portfolio. Portfolios are great because they're very adaptive to curricula, and finding ways, like, you could put literally anything in a portfolio. Um, Even if it just seems like, how am I going to put my birdhouse in my portfolio? Well, take a picture. Now your birdhouse is in your portfolio. The steps on portfolios: select the purpose of the portfolio. Those were the different types. The format in which, like, is it going to be a paper one? The storage system, the contents, the collect and how we're going to collect and organize work. Is it going to be developmental? Is this about showing overall? So, like, for example, I've worked at schools where students had one portfolio for all of their classes. And I have to say, as a teacher, we loved that because all of us were responsible for the 120 students in our grade level, and we shared the responsibility for all 120, instead of which a lot of schools that I've worked at, which were the subject area organization, where each teacher was responsible for 120 student portfolios. That means each student had about 7 portfolios each. Do the math. Have fun with that one. All right, then you have the how you're going to analyze the portfolio assessment. The rubric. When all is said and done, yes, these are individual assignments and projects and assessments that are going into the portfolio. But then, how are you going to assess the portfolio as a whole? And then, how are we going to share out the results of the portfolio? Strategies for portfolio success. Start small, emphasize quality. Ask yourself, can students have choices about what they include? How will I share it with parents? Use photos and drawings and reflective descriptions to document projects that don't fit inside the portfolio. Remember, how am I going to fit my birdhouse? Take a picture. Now your birdhouse is in your portfolio. Yay! Include it, please. If you're doing portfolios, include a table of contents. They get very big very quickly. Be sure that students date their work so there's an understanding of time and place and context for their work. Share with parents. Parents should really know. Portfolios are great because then on parent teacher night, especially for the kids who don't do their work, oh, Johnny has a very, very light portfolio. That's why his grade is the way that it is. So portfolios are cool because you can really, it provides evidence for that. Clearly aligned to the instructive objectives. Don't do portfolios just for the sake of doing portfolios. They should be really aligned to the objectives. Finally, because I think my pizza is almost here, it's going to arrive very soon. All right. Yes, it is. Enough of that. Let's get to the summary. So, written products, portfolios, and projects are forms of formal and summative assessments. Logs, journals, and notebooks are different written projects with specific goals to assess student progress. There are good and bad projects depending on how the teacher approaches the assessment process. Portfolios are a collection of student work that invites them into the assessment and learning process. Written products, portfolios, and projects are another example as to how assessment drives instruction. And I gotta go because I got a pizza waiting for me. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Welcome back from break. And let's hit the ground running. We got a few more weeks for this. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.